Oh, hello.
Hi. Good evening, everyone. Okay.
Wasn't Christmas.
All right. How are we doing?
Yeah.
Who didn't get a chance to listen to the second talk? Yeah, great. Okay. So we're good to go. And as usual, you can interrupt me. You can put your mics on to ask questions, or just send a question into the chat, and then there'll be, if it's to clarify something I'm saying, and then there'll be time at the end also to ask your questions. But just to clarify a little bit after last week, some were asking quite personal questions last week, which I understand and appreciate your enthusiasm and you want to know. But if you ask me, what can I do for this or that problem, you're asking me to think from a symptom-based perspective, right? And we know that Ayurveda is functional medicine. And if I try to prescribe from a symptom-based perspective, then I'm likely doing you an injustice, because I'm not looking, kind of deeply at we just can't work like that in Ayurveda. We have to look in depth at what's going on with you. So general questions, yes, but specific personal solutions, I can't give in this forum. All right. I think you're grasping that. Okay. So let me get the screen share up. There we are. On the last slide, sorry. Okay, good to go. So part 3, how Ayurveda works to boost your health and resilience. And we've kind of looked at the meaning of Ayurveda and the history of Ayurveda and a little bit of introduction to the 5-element theory and the tridosha theory, right, in the first webinar. We recapped on that last week. We looked at your own individual types. And then we had a little introduction to the doshas in the seasons and why maybe, Ayurveda claims that the effect of the seasons is one of the causes of disease, illness. So we'll have a little look more further at that this evening. And we'll also look into seasonal transitions and how to navigate those to sustain balance in body and mind, why we need to do that, why would they even, undermine our balance in body and mind. And we'll look also a little bit at the importance of seasonal cleansing, and then some very specific tips for autumn and early winter. Okay, let's go. Okay. So far we've started with a quote. I found this lovely Ayurveda proverb, which seems quite pertinent to where we're going this evening. When diet is wrong, medicine is of no use. When diet is correct, medicine is of no need. It's so simple, isn't it? And I think you're getting it now, that Ayurveda is such common sense, really. It's really common sense. It's just thinking in a particular way, but there's a logic, and I think we feel it in our gut to be right, and to make sense. So when diet is wrong, medicine is of no use. When diet is correct, medicine is of no need. So we prescribe herbs, we prescribe body treatments as an Ayurveda practitioner, but also the foundations or the cornerstones of reclaiming and sustaining your health are ahara and vihara, food and lifestyle. So without those two foundations, without proper diet and proper lifestyle, then herbal remedies, body treatments might work, but nowhere near as effectively as if you are eating according to the doshas of the season and of your own dosha, constitutional type and your age, proper diet, and also aligning your lifestyle with that, with your own biorhythms and with the cosmic biorhythms. Yeah. So this, I think now I'm talking to a group who can tell me this is nothing new. We've done this. Let's go ahead. Right. So eating in alignment with the seasons and with an awareness of your Ayurveda type is a key factor in Ayurveda for sustaining your health and for reclaiming your health within any treatment program. Let's review a little what we've done so far. Ayurveda is the science of life. Okay, Aya, life, Veda, understanding, knowledge. We know Ayurveda is a tri-dosha system. It's made up of these 3 types we call doshas. We know that dosha translates as fault or that which is unstable, right? Remember that? It's affected by the changes in the environment, and it's made up of the doshas are made up of varying combinations of the elements. And if the elements are changeful and affected by the elements within a substance or within a being and are affected by the elements in the environment, then so are the doshas, right? And maybe I'll say here that actually, yeah, I'll wait. The doshas affect the seasons, right? So we know that each season has its governing dosha. And the seasons affect our doshas. So actually here we come to what I was just going to say, right? If we have vata in our dosha and the vata is going up in the environment, okay, in the atmosphere, then that is going to aggravate the vata dosha within us because we are affected by our environment. And we can go back to that very first quote. You remember it by Dr. Deepak Chopra? We are part of the universe. The universe is intelligent, and our body is part of the cosmic body and cosmic mind. Our mind is part of the cosmic mind. So, of course, you know, if the doshas are increasing in the environment, then they're also going to increase in us. We are not separate. We're not islands. We're affected by these changes in the macrocosm. Therefore, one of the causes of disease in Ayurveda is the effect of the seasons. And here we have to think about all the qualities, the varying qualities of the doshas, right? Which we'll come to in a moment. Because if they're going up in the environment, as the doshas go up, as a particular dosha goes up, then they're going to go up in us as that dosha goes up. And that's what causes the conditions for the illness. So say in a vata season, more dryness, more coldness, more hardness, more movement. So here we have it. Main theory in Ayurveda is that like increases like. Okay. So if it's dry in the environment, it's going to increase the dry within us. If it's a dry season and we take dry foods, there's going to be a lot of dryness in our body, particularly if we are of a vata type. So we have a dryness innately as part of our makeup. We talked last week about antidoting, right? And then we kind of got a little bit too far for the scope of these webinars, but we can think like that. We can try to memorize the qualities of our particular doshas and then think and remember, particularly during the season of our dosha, opposites bring balance. So if vata is light and dry as one of its as two of its attributes, then maybe we want foods which are the opposite, heavy and unctuous, right? We can think like this. So here I've given us the qualities as a recap, a reminder, the seasons and their doshas. So we have air and ether, as we know, make up the vata dosha. So try to think of the elements that make up the doshas. it will give you an indication, a reminder, a prompt as to the qualities, or we call them gunas, of the dosha. So vata is dry, cool, light, subtle, rough, hard, and mobile. So we're obviously in this seasonal transition time of year. It's late August. We're feeling the mornings are cooler. And the days are getting shorter. It's still dark at 5 o'clock now. Suddenly, seems like it's suddenly. And we talked about it in class today. Some are feeling a little more like vata kind of symptoms within the in themselves. So one expressed maybe a little more sleeplessness, another a little more anxiety, restlessness. So just looking at the psychology, why would anxiety and this restlessness and this busyness in the mind be a symptom of elevated vata dosha? Because of movement, first of all, right? And because of lightness, movement and lightness and dry. When things are dry, they move more, right? Dry leaf, a dry piece of wood will move more than a heavy leaf, a wet leaf and a wet piece of wood. And so when there's anxiety, there's a lot of movement in the system, isn't there? In the nervous system, in the thought processes. And also there's a little bit of a sense of feeling maybe ungrounded, even out of the body, a bit too light. So we're going to look later on in this webinar as to how we can, what are the opposites we can apply into our lifestyle and our diet. So as ahara and vihara in autumn and early winter, to balance these attributes. Okay. Let's just, so our preoccupation, we're really mainly focusing on the vata dosha because it's the dosha of autumn and early winter. It's where we're heading. We want some tips how to take care of ourselves, right? But let's have a little review of the late winter, spring, and summer qualities. So we've got earth and water for kapha dosha. So the gunas of kapha dosha are heavy. Let's think of the elements, right? Earth and wet and water, bring them together. We get this heavy substance. It's cold, isn't it? If you think of clay, it's cold, it's wet. It's gross in terms of it's very solid, right? It's not going to move very far. Unctuous. Kapha is unctuous. Kapha is oily, right? The skin is less likely to dry and so less likely to wrinkle, or it's also to the envy of many of us as they get older. And also because of this heaviness and this static quality, they're going to be slow in their movements. And water with earth in it is cloudy. Got that twice there. And dense, so solid, but it's soft. Kapha is soft. The skin is soft to touch. Clay and earth, when they're wet, it's soft, isn't it? I've repeated a few qualities there, never mind. Pitta dosha, fire and water, summer season. So this should be fresh in our memories, even though we only seem to have a very short summer in terms of heat, didn't we, this year? Hot is the most obvious attribute, right? Sharp, light, liquid, piercing, and we said pitta is oily. So it has this liquid quality. We say it has water in it, but actually pitta is oily. All right. So I wanted to first look at seasonal transitions because we are not in one yet, even though we feel the season's changing, we're moving towards one. And staying balanced through seasonal transitions, we would say takes a little focus, a little awareness in terms of ahara vihara, lifestyle and food. And in Sanskrit, the transition from one season to another is Ritu Sandhi. Okay. So let's have a look. We'll work towards why it's, why we will be challenged to stay balanced in body and mind in a seasonal transition, and then maybe why particularly so in this seasonal transition that we're approaching. So when is the seasonal transition? So we can go to bullet point 2 actually maybe first. So seasonal transitions are at the equinoxes and solstices in our 4-season climate. So in India, I mentioned last week, they're going to have a 6-season climate. So the transitional times might be quite different. Okay, we have a 4-season climate. So we have the solstices when the sun turns north or south, right? And we shift from days being longer than nights in the summer to nights being longer than days in the winter, right? Those are the solstice junctures. So those are big junctures. Those are big atmospheric changes, right? And our bodies and our metabolisms have to adjust because we will be impacted. And then there's the solstices, equinoxes, right? So the transition from summer to autumn and from winter to spring, when the days and nights are of equal duration, right? During the seasonal transitions, Vata dosha dominates. Why might that be? I'm going to throw a question out. Anyone?
Change.
Yeah, movement, right? Well done. So movement. There's movement. There's change, so there's movement. So movement, travel, change elevates Vata, puts Vata up a little bit, because Vata dosha is made up of the most of air and ether. They're unstable elements. They're the most likely to go out of balance. And particularly, as we're approaching also a Vata season. So I'm sure we're coming to a slide which will tell us this, but I'll go there now, which is that even though we're not, okay, so let's go to the first bullet point first of all, sorry. So the seasonal transitions, the seasonal junctures are equinoxes and solstices. Okay, those are the junctures actually, but so it should be seasonal juncture. So the transition lasts 7 days before and 7 days after that juncture. Okay, so 15 days around the solstices and the equinoxes. We want to pay attention, right? But actually, as many of us are feeling, particularly if you have Vata dosha in your constitution already, so as we go through the seasons, it's not like you're suddenly let's go back a little bit. Let's go back one slide. Where were we? Okay, so it's not like you're suddenly from early winter, from Vata season into Kapha season. It's not like the switch happens suddenly. It's not like you suddenly go from a Kapha dominated environment to a Pitta one, right? What happens is the Vata right now, okay, is gradually starting to increase. And it will peak at the peak of this early autumn, early winter season. And then it will start to decrease, even within its own season, as the Kapha starts to accumulate, increase, as we move towards the Kapha season. So we've been in summer, we've reached the peak of the Pitta season, and the Pitta season is starting to decrease. The Pitta dosha in the environment, should I say, is starting to decrease as we come towards the end of summer. And so from August already, the Vata dosha is starting to increase. And so then we want to be aware. We want to be aware on 2 counts, which I think we'll come into in a moment. One is that we will still have the heat and the effects of the summer season, the Pitta dosha season in our bodies, particularly if we're like have Pitta in our constitution, okay? And then at the same time, particularly if we have Vata in our constitution, this Vata is rising in the environment, in the atmosphere, so it's going to be rising in us, and we might start to feel its effects also. So we have those two effects taking place, plus we're moving towards this juncture. So it's kind of takes some extra care to stay in balance. Does it make sense? And the care is going to come from those two cornerstones of Ayurveda, for which you don't really need to go to an Ayurveda practitioner. You just need this kind of education. Eat the seasonal foods, eat the foods that are have the qualities which will balance out the attributes of the dosha you're trying to pacify. And also have a lifestyle which will kind of balance out the attributes of that season also. So let's take Kapha season and Vata season in terms of lifestyle. And we see it, autumn anyway, nature is slowing down. Nature is going to sleep in many ways, right? A lot of animals go into hibernation, but we have all this artificial lighting and heating, and we just want to keep going on the same agenda and the same program. And we wonder why we start to feel depleted and maybe get sick. Okay. And also then we're feeding maybe this kind of mobile and dry and cool and light qualities, which are going to make us feel also anxious, restless, maybe hypertensive, insomnia, and all those kind of things, dry stools, which will again affect the optimum functioning of our metabolism. So if Vata has a lot of movement in it, then in this season, nature's doing it, right? We want to slow down our agendas. We want to do less. We want to maybe sleep and rest a little more. We want to stay warm. We want to avoid like, when you go out and it's windy or there's a cold, dry breeze, we want to protect against that, the head, the neck. It's rough, it's hard in quality. So also in our lifestyle, we want to, and in our diet, we want to have a lot of oil, heavy foods, good quality oils that are on the body, so externally and internally. So we combat that dry and that light, and we would choose oils which are warming in quality. Unless we're Pitta dosha, we already have that warmth. And then on the other hand, like we get to spring and we're in the Kapha season and we've got this kind of heavy, cold quality to Kapha and static, dense quality. We want to move more. We want to lighten up. We want to then move. And then we know it's a time to cleanse the lymphatics, to clear congestion from the body. So again, to cultivate the opposites. Bring the opposites in to bring balance. And again, I'll flag up a different approach to yoga practice in the Radiant Mornings program. When we're practicing every day, we've got this kind of very focus on regularity, repetition, smoothness in the breath, smoothness in the movement, and stillness in our Vata practice. Whereas in Kapha, in the Kapha season, we were moving more and we were building strength and we were building heat. And we were even, rarely for my classes, maybe building sweat, so we're really moving the lymphatics and the toxins and the heaviness from the body. So let's go back to where we were. We've done the transition. We're here. Yeah. So in the transitions, Vata dosha dominates. And then here at the bottom, it's a gradual change of season, and we need to respect it. It means we need to align with it. We need to live an awareness of it. Or if we change too suddenly, like if we suddenly think, oh, you know, I'm in a Vata season, I can now start suddenly radically switching my diet to the Vata taste and the Vata foods. We need to gradually switch, and we need to watch within ourselves, observe those attributes of the season that's coming to an end and the season that's coming to its beginning. And we want to bring that awareness into our food and lifestyle choices. And particularly if you're coming to these classes, these Radiant Morning classes, and we're learning the Ayurveda yoga, you'll have lots of tools to balance your prana. So to work in an alchemical way with your inner state of your body and your mind. But of course, the food and your lifestyle are also foundational. So you will have tools from our practices to, pacify these aggravated effects, balance, harmonize the prana, and support that with this lifestyle and food knowledge. So, little summary. During Rita Sandhi, transitional time, our bodies and minds respond to the atmospheric changes just like everything else in nature. We are moving from a Pitta season to a Vata season, we know that. And we know now that Vata begins to increase before the seasonal transition time. So before those 7 days before the equinox in September 21st, right? I think you all know it. So by August, Vata is already increasing. So we need to adjust lifestyle and nutrition to keep Vata from increasing too much within us. Because then we're moving towards Vata symptoms. Also, we know Vata has the least resilience to and endure, resistance to illness, which we don't want as we go into these autumn, winter months. So adjusting by October when Vata is at its peak, it's too late. Okay. But after Vata is at its peak, we can start doing cleanses to remove excess dosha that is likely to accumulate. But we don't want to live against the nature of these weeks, thinking, oh, I can, and against our own biorhythms, thinking, oh, it's fine, I can do what I like, and then I'll do my little cleanse, and then I'll go on living my own bad habits again after the cleanse. Let's not do that. All right, so here we go. Here I thought it'd be nice maybe to pause and do a little self-inquiry. Did you all get my rather late message to bring a notebook and pen? Yeah. So what I would invite you to do, just a few minutes, is to consider how Vata dosha might manifest in your body mind, its qualities. These attributes of cold, dry, light, subtle, hard, rough, mobile. There's that inflexibility, there's that lightness and subtleness, very little tissue, so also the sensitivity, as well as like that tendency towards depletion. They don't have as much endurance as others. Also, can I just say Vata types, because of all these aspects, they can get quite misunderstood and quite easily judged for that and quite easily hurt. It's just a little aside. So let's have a look. Consider the Vata qualities in your lifestyle and diet. First, have a look. First, consider the Vata qualities manifesting in your body, mind. Just take a few moments, Any symptoms or tendencies, innate traits you might have, which are maybe of a Vata nature. And then can you consider where your lifestyle and your diet, and by the way, when we think about diet aggravating vata, dosha, maybe we can think not only what we eat, but how we eat. Thinking of movement. So because of this mobile quality of vata dosha, anything that is irregular will aggravate vata dosha. Are your meals irregular? Do you eat on the go? All these kind of things. As well as the types of food. Also the environment. Do you ever have to eat in stressful environments due to your work or maybe even family situations sometimes? Okay. Yeah. How could you bring in opposites? How could you bring in the balancing opposites through your activities, lifestyle, and food choices? What little shifts, just little shifts, what little shifts might you make? What kind of food types might you eat less of or avoid, even if you have a lot of vata in your system? Try to use the logic here of the attributes. We will look at it. Okay, a little bit longer. All right, yeah. And so if opposites balance, we know that like increases like, okay? So we don't want to increase the vata qualities. So what qualities might and what activities and foods might you avoid or reduce? It's kind of the flip side of the previous question, isn't it? Okay. Yeah. Would anyone like to share anything that they'd written? Any insights? Any questions on it? Yeah, Jude.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Mine's always a little bit scatty, which is probably the vata. At the moment, my energy levels are definitely lower. And that really started last week. And getting a really good night's sleep uninterrupted has definitely gone for a burden. It's much harder to concentrate at the moment as well. I sort of can very easily think I've sorted something out, and then I just get distracted by something else. It's nothing major, but it's just a bit irritating to be constantly racing around, whereas I've got quite good at being a little bit more grounded than that. I'm a big lover of salads through summer, but at the weekend I made an enormous pot of soup, and that's been absolutely lovely, because on days like this, you just think, you almost, sounds a little bit dramatic, you can't really remember what it's like to be beautiful and warm. And to walk around in a t-shirt, it's almost as if that's it for the summer. So yeah, making soup. I know it sounds a bit silly. I wouldn't normally start making soups in August. I know we're at the end, but that's been lovely for my lunches. I've still had to have a bit of salad. I'm weaning myself off the salads. So and things like at the moment, I don't normally in the summer months, I don't tend to stew fruits that I eat because they tend to mostly be berries. But I know I should probably start doing that just to make them softer, slightly more juicy. So it's not earth-shattering stuff, because I, having been to you for a consultation, I know what I should and shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
And there's no point coming in and having a consultation on something if you don't tend to see it through. So I've done that, and it does make a big difference. But I think I've been caught out slightly with the 7 days prior, 7 days after changeover around these equinoxes, and obviously building, as you say, already towards the next change, probably earlier than I imagined, frankly, or even thought about. So but instinctively I want to be warmer, you know, the sweatshirts, trainers with socks gone back on today.
And intuitively you're moving away from so much of the cold foods.
Yeah, which is killing me, because I absolutely adore the summer, because I'm always warm when the sun's out.
Right.
But I don't want to sort of I don't feel ready to go back towards autumn and then hibernation. But it's what I'll do to keep myself feeling better, or at a you know, I daren't say peak because it sounds like I've got it sussed, but as peak as my levels can be, that, you know.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And you do take care of yourself, so you deserve to be there.
Well, thank you. Try.
Yeah, yeah. And with the sleep, you know, I was thinking about it myself, because I've just, by what's happening in my life right now, I've really had to be a lot busier than I would usually like to be at this time of year. I'll usually take some weeks off in August. And so I'm really feeling my Vata. Actually, for those of you that were in the morning class this morning, we had quite a hilarious tree vinyasa, balancing tree vinyasa, you know, and it's a flow which is for balancing the Vata dosha. But, you know, it really revealed the Vata imbalances, because I described us as wavering bamboos. I think Jude described us as quivering aspens or something like that.
Quaking aspens. Yeah.
So, you know, it's obviously high in all of us. And so it will affect sleep. But oiling your feet at night, putting warm sesame oil on your feet is a really nice remedy. Even, you know, making some hot milk. If you're a kapha, if you have a lot of kapha in your system, please don't do this. Adding like a couple of Brazil nuts or almonds into the milk, the non-dairy milk, as well as you cook it, and you get that nice oily quality. So there we get, you know, unctuousness. Oil is heavy. It's going to combat that dry lightness that's creating the movement that's creating the insomnia. Okay. Anyone else like to say something? Thank you, Jude. No. Okay, all right. So let's move on then to the next slide. Okay, this is an important point that we're coming to now. A couple of important points. So we're shifting from the hot, sharp days of summer. So how do substances move through the body? They move through it in channels, right? From an Ayurveda perspective. And the movement is governed by the Vata dosha, we know that. But when it's hot, okay, those channels will be dilated. They'll relax, okay, they're more open. As it gets cold, they start to dry and they become cooler and lighter, then they start to shrivel a little bit. Yep, so the channels become a little more constricted. this is like, obviously affecting the way our metabolism works. So it's also why our bodies need a little more support at these times. As we come towards the end of the Pitta season, any excess heat that's built up in the body through the summer can become trapped in our tissues as the channels try and dilate. And heat is going to also create maybe more dryness, right? Heat is drying also. So in this case, we can start to experience symptoms of Pitta dosha aggravation. And this is another question I did a little check-in with some of you in class today, and I got a few nods because I'm noticing it for the first time myself actually this time. I'm starting to feel little heat sensations. Sometimes like I'm having a bit of a hot flush, when I kind of left those behind, I think. Or sometimes like the other day, just this strange burning sensation on the side of my face coming and going. And maybe some of you will get it in your stools, or like a little more loose stool, or some of you might get like a tendency towards more burning symptoms in the gut. I have a friend locally, and she asked me, you must help me. And she asked me a few weeks ago, I've got this like upper gastric stuff going on, upper intestinal stuff going on, acidity and burning and nausea and stuff. And then we're coming to this kind of transitional stage, and suddenly she's very ill with a tummy bug and vomiting and nausea and can't hold her food down, right? So it's like an excess of this Pitta buildup that's happened for her. And she surely has like Pitta in her constitution. Just going to move my little gallery out the way. Let's move it over that side. So all right, so we're talking about the dates in terms of the transition of the seasons, but it doesn't mean that if the sun comes out, of course, Pitta is still going to, the heat is still going to be there, so the fire is still going to be up, so Pitta can still have a dominant influence on our bodies and minds. Can we go to the bottom point before we go to the middle one? Seems to have got my bullets a little bit like logically ordered somehow how doing this one. So transitional times, we can see that our metabolism is really having to make some major adjustments. We've got these channels going from being dilated to constricted. We've got changes in the warmth and the coolness of the environment, the light and the dark, and the nature of the foods that are being provided in our environment so that the body has to digest. So hardly surprising, and Vata is going up because of movement change. So hardly surprising that Ayurveda recognizes that our health and immunity can be compromised as the body tries to adjust to these seasonal changes. Is it making sense? Is that quite obvious that it would be so when we think like this? We know that we can have dosha accumulated in the tissues from the previous season. And then that can be compounded by the effects of the coming season, like heat trapped in tissues, which now, are in channels which are dried and dilated. And maybe then the heat brings almost more, is trapped there, it creates more drying. So we're going to get some kind of symptoms as an effect of those conditions, right? And we don't want that to build year after year. We don't want these excess dosha conditions aggravated by the effects of the seasons to build in the body, because we've said that one of the causes of disease is the effect of the seasons. Well, we can see how the seasons can cause their dosha to increase, right? And increased dosha is going to bring an increase of those attributes of that dosha, right? Those qualities of that dosha. And that is going to lay the conditions, the environment for certain diseases, okay? So dosha aggravation is really what we're trying to pacify in Ayurveda to restore the body and the mind to optimum functioning and to an equilibrium. So Ayurveda says it's really important to do seasonal cleansing to get rid of the excess accumulated dosha from the tissues to sustain health. Also, I want to just address in a moment, maybe it's in the next slide, this subject of Agni. Agni is like, it translates as fire, and often we think it's just digestive fire, but I think I mentioned last week, we have all these different Agnis throughout our system, right down into the cells, because it's that fire element governing all the transformational processes, right? So it's really our metabolism. Agni is really the way our metabolism is functioning. And each dosha has a different type of Agni metabolism, okay? But as we transition from one season to another, and the health and the functioning of the state of the doshas becomes maybe aggravated, then this can affect the functioning of the Agni. So not only the metabolism generally, you know, the transformation of substances right down to a cellular level, but also that essential digestive fire. And when that's compromised, when it's not working properly, not only are we not assimilating our nutrients properly, because the breakdown happens maybe too fast, you know, and so everything's moving out in the form of loose stools and you're losing good nutrients, maybe too slowly, so everything becomes sluggish, or maybe in an irregular way, like a vata Agni. And so we get toxicity. Not even if we're eating the best foods in the world and the seasonal foods, if the Agni is not functioning and it can't break down properly, assimilate and eliminate properly what we're putting in, then we get toxicity. And then again, we have the, you know, can't find that word I'm looking for this evening. We have the environment, you know, the right circumstances for bacteria, viruses to start to thrive. We probably get maybe an acidic condition inside. So seasonal cleansing also important to reset the Agni, reset the digestive fire. And then when the digestive fire is reset and the Agni in general, the other Agnis through herbs, foods, little, you know, Ayurveda yoga practices, body scrubs, pastes, powders, we do the whole work in the cleanses, maybe body treatments, one-to-one body treatments. Then, you know, you're boosting the Agni, you're pacifying the doshas, then we can build strength and health. Then we can begin to nourish and create what we call ojas, or support ojas, our kind of innate strength. We can boost immunity this way. In Ayurveda, always we reduce and eliminate first, and then we bring in the nourishing herbs and foods, because they tend to be a little heavier. And if you bring them in before you've pacified the doshas and optimized your Agni function, then those heavier foods are going to create more heaviness because they can't be broken down and assimilated, and the herbs. Does that make sense? So seasonal cleansing is really important. And particularly key times to cleanse are around the equinoxes. Okay, move from winter into spring and and in the autumn. Okay, spring and autumn. And you can say in any of the seasonal junctures, any of the seasonal transitions, it's important to cleanse. You know, and then also it depends on your state of health, let's say that. So for some of us also, we might need to do initially like week-long cleanses, 3-4 times a year, 10 days. Also, of course, there are the panchakarmas, the real deep cleansing treatments that you can go to an Ayurveda center and have. But you need to be careful where you go and who you choose. It's kind of like a surgery, you know, there's purgation, there's induced vomiting, deep cleansing. You know, but also we can do these week-long things at home, or maybe or some seasonal junctures, summer, late winter, you might do like a little digestive reset, the shorter ones. Reset the Agni and give the system a break to adjust. So seasonal cleansing will support immunity by aiding the elimination of toxins in the period of adjustment for the body, will remove excess of dosha from the previous season, which can accumulate to create symptoms, aid the body's fight against bacteria and viruses by supporting the balance and the strength of the Agni, and also help to ensure Vata dosha, so particularly this time of year, help to ensure Vata dosha doesn't become aggravated, particularly as we move into a Vata season. So always that I feel particularly now. All right, in the transition, back to the transition, signs of pitta excess, we kind of had a look at. You can kind of just maybe keep your antenna up, observing yourself. A little more acid reflux and indigestion than normal. A little more inflammation of the joints, nausea, diarrhea, irritability, etc., etc. Then bring some more pitta pacifying foods into your diet over the next weeks. More signs in your case of excess Vata. Dry skin, constipation, anxiety, insomnia, lack of focus, erratic energy levels, irregular hunger. Like erratic, irregular, anything is generally going on in our body, Vata will have a role. So summarizing, with clearing with seasonal cleansing any existing accumulation of dosha, we're balancing the Agni, so we're strengthening metabolic function, and we're preventing accumulation of Vata dosha in the seasonal transition times. Are you all right? Are you ready for some more? We're going to get specific. We're coming towards the end. You've done great. You've focused so well, all of you, through these quite long webinars, really. So we've learned that Vata is really the most vulnerable of the types. And so we want to keep Vata balanced over winter, autumn, and early winter, particularly. And particularly if we have a Vata in our constitution. So we want to do this to enhance our stress resilience. Vata has the least resilience. To give good sleep and regular digestion, to combat those irregularity, erratic tendencies of Vata, to support immunity in all the ways we've just discussed through boosting the metabolic function, so we can combat the reduction, so we can keep toxicity reduced, so we can combat viruses, bacteria, and also, very nicely to maintain, therefore, balance, equilibrium in body and mind. So as Juice said, we can feel peak, we can feel really well. So here's some top tips, and they seem really simple, but remember, ahara vihara, lifestyle and diet, they're foundational, So really, from a Ayurveda perspective, this is much more important for me than going and spending a lot of money on some supplements and living a lifestyle that's going to aggravate your Vata dosha. It's just going to be more effective. Stay warm and protected from cold, dry winds. We said that. Cover the head, cover the neck, cover the chest. Build regularity into your routine. Try to wake up at regular times, go to bed at regular times, eat 3 regular meals a day. Avoid excessive exercise. So Vata dosha wants gentle exercise. We want to move, but we don't want to be really moving to depletion ever for Vata dosha, particularly this time of year. Eat a seasonal diet focusing on nature's bounty. So nature is giving us foods which have the opposite attributes to this season. It's so lovely. We talked about this last week, didn't we? Root vegetables, winter squash, nuts, which give us good quality fats. So that's inviting us also to bring good quality fats into our diet. You know, you can maybe use a very nutritious, organic, cold pressed sesame oil. Very nice for vata. Ghee, you know, bring ghee into your diet if you're not vegan. Very nice, very pacifying for pitta and vata. If you have kapha in your constitution, so here's a tip, right? So we want to eat aligned with the season. If it's the season of your type, then really go for it. But if you have kapha in your system, then you're going to use your own discernment. You know, if you already feel quite heavy, you don't want to put a whole lot of heavy fats on and inside your body, right? So you have to adapt for your type. Whole grains, lentils, pulses, like Jude said, you know, it's the time for us now to be moving towards, you know, wholesome soups and stews and brown rice and yummy things like that. Go for, by the way, with the beans, with the pulses, go for the smaller beans. The big beans are hard for vata to digest. They're going to give you gas. We want the leaner, lighter, easier to digest animal proteins and in small amounts. If you have animal products, make it like 10 to 20% of your food intake. It's the hardest to digest. It's going to challenge your Agni. That means it's going to build toxicity sooner or later. The tastes that will pacify Vata dosha, sweet, salty, sour tastes. The sweet taste also will pacify Pitta dosha. That's not carte blanche to go out and eat a load of cakes. We're not talking about that kind of, we're not talking about that kind of sweet. We're talking about the sweetness of grains, the sweetness of certain vegetables. Maybe the sweetness of like some grain syrups, like a brown rice syrup. And maybe your dried fruits, dates, things like that. Not so much the sharper, dried tropical fruits. These tastes, bitter, pungent, astringent taste. Astringent is like something, if it dries in your mouth when you eat it, if your mouth feels a little bit dry, it's got an astringent taste. Okay? Pungent taste, it's going to be like the hot, hot, spicy. Bitter, quite obvious, your dark leafy, some of your dark leafy greens, which are so good for us, aren't they? So do include them in your diet. More important than reducing your dark leafy greens is to reduce your salads now. And if you're having salads, unless you know you're real strong pitta type, and maybe anyway you might now want to switch that for the seasonal nature. If you're going to eat any raw still, make it a very small amount, like 10 to 20% again of your intake, and have it at the end of your meal, which I know is counterintuitive. Many of us have been told, let's eat the raw first and get the enzymes going. Eat the raw last to support your Agni. Eat the warming first. And if you can go without the raw now, please go without. You know, you don't want to be putting cold on your digest. You put your fire out. Always, even in summer, we don't want to really put cold foods, ice drinks, ice foods in our system. So dried fruits have still like a succulence about them, don't they? So when we're saying reduce dried foods, it's more like your dried snacks and crackers and puffed, what you call it, rice cakes, this kind of thing. Go more for a nice whole grain bread. If you don't tolerate yeast, you know, there are loads of fantastic alternatives now, aren't there? And you can also make like your own unleavened versions, can't you? So easy to make a chapati. It's just flour and a nice stone ground flour and water. Walk in nature. Walking in nature is so balancing for Vata. And include, you know, a slow, mindful form of exercise like Tai Chi or awareness. I'm missing a few letters of my words here. Awareness-based yoga. Obviously meant to be awareness. Okay. And here are a few more specific tips. So the first is a real good cure for Vata. Drink a large glass of warm boiled water on waking. If you have a lot of kapha in your system, you can drink a smaller glass of hot boiled water. And we've really covered this. During the transition phase, we're going to use our own discernment. We're going to eat foods that are mildly pitta pacifying, or maybe a little more pitta pacifying if we're noticing some of those symptoms of accumulated trapped pitta dosha, and vata pacifying, which we've covered what those foods are, what their tastes are. Here again, warming soups and stews, wheat, oatmeal, lentils, fish, no root veggies, cooked apples. Please cook your fruit. Like Jude said, you know, stew your fruit now. Okay. If you eat nuts, soak them first, make them more digestible. These concentrated foods like nuts and eggs and chocolate, these dense foods, really challenge the Agni and can end up blocking the channels, Jude. She knows that I was, my guilty secret is that I'm quite a chocolate addict, right? And I can do all these cleanses, and my friends are telling me, you do a chocolate cleanse. Because sometimes it's really hard for me to let go of, you know, that little bit of healthy, full of antioxidants, dark chocolate with no sugar in, and you think it's okay, but actually it's not, right? So I have no chocolate in my house at the moment. It's really, really concentrated. And I was told it blocks your channels. I'm like, oh, right, that's just done it for me. I don't want my channels to be blocked. And that was it, you know, addiction broken. So that's what these very dense foods do. So we want to eat them last. Okay, so that the food we put in next is not sitting on top of them, waiting for the poor Agni to process this stuff. And we want to eat them in small amounts. So nuts in small amounts, not the whole bag, just a few. Chocolate, just buy that dense stuff that is hard to eat more than a small piece of anyway. Okay, avoid cruciferous vegetables. So like cauliflower, it's aerated, right? It's got air in it. Large beans, I've already said, challenging for the system. Millet, drying. Popcorn, puffed, it's got air in it. Dry crackers and snacks. Oil your body daily. In the morning, warm some sesame oil or organic olive oil if you're pitta, and massage it foot to top. Leave it 15 minutes and then shower. If you have kapha, you don't want to do this every day, just a couple of days a week. Alternate nostril breathing, another fantastic vata cure. These things we do in class we can take for granted, but it's really one of the best things you can do for yourself is to wake up, sit on your bed, do a few rounds of alternate nostril breathing. You're resetting your nervous system for the day. You know, you're establishing some equilibrium even before you get going. Slow, steady exercise pace we've talked about. Spending time outdoors when the sun is up, really great through the autumn to get that warmth in the system. Take an Ayurveda cleanse program. I do Ayurveda cleanse programs, but when I scheduled this and made this talk, it wasn't like with the aim of doing some big plug for my Ayurveda seasonal cleanse programs. But then I suddenly found I'm talking about them, and so we're kind of heading that way. Well, I'll tell you what's on offer in a while, and you can decide if you want to do one. And if you don't do an Ayurveda seasonal cleanse program, and you know you have some symptoms or you're not particularly resilient, then take a one-to-one with someone who does Ayurveda and get them to help you create a seasonal, personalized program to keep you strong with diet, yoga, lifestyle, herbs. And we've already talked about awareness-based yoga and meditation daily to keep nervous system and mind calm. I think we're more or less at the end. You'll be happy to know. So Ayurveda and yoga, I think, is the pathway to radiant living. For me, they're the most complete package. You know, it's common sense, it's education, how to live in alignment with the universe. The universe is intelligent, it's the macrocosm. We are these microcosms of that universe. We have the same intelligence within us. Let's awaken it. Let's be alive, radiant beings. Let's live our best life with this Ayurveda yoga support. This is a little quote I found from Sebastian Pole, who is the founder of the Pukka teas and herbs and Ayurveda products. And it kind of fits because it's about cleansing. We've been talking about the importance of seasonal cleansing. Because we cannot scrub our inner body, we need to learn a few skills to cleanse our organs, tissues, and minds. And this is the art of Ayurveda. So we can say another two pillars of Ayurveda are two therapy types. One is Langana and one is Brimhana. Yeah, Brimhana. And the first is lightening. So we're reducing, we're taking away the heavy, maybe sticky toxicity, also the heaviness in the mind. And then when that's done, there's the strengthening and the nourishing and the replenishing. Okay, so we need to get everything out, and then we can nourish and replenish, and we can actually process all the good stuff that we put inside and benefit from it. Little plug. Here are my programs. Okay, so in September, as we approach that transition, I'm going to do, and I invite you to join me on a weekend digestive reset. So what's involved? You will get the products and or recipes and shopping lists for like we move gradually from, we prepare for it so we can move into a mono diet over a weekend. We'll have body scrubs to cleanse and oils for the tissues and to nourish, you know, to get deep into the tissues. We'll have special teas, seasonal, herbal cleansing to help take the toxins that have gone deep into the tissues back into the gut, and will support the Agni to eliminate that and to restabilize, reset itself. Okay, so with the digestive reset, we want to reset the Agni. You will eat. It's not like you don't eat. You eat, but we move towards a very kind of nourishing mono diet, which allows the whole system to rest and reset itself. It'll be supported with special but gentle yoga practices, breathing techniques, inquiry practices. So we're bringing awareness into our lifestyle habits, eating habits, and also thinking habits. All these things that can bring us down and challenge our energy and so our health. And then in autumn, I'll do a full cleanse program. So some people are already subscribing to this. We did it in the spring. The people that did it in the spring are coming back. It's fantastic to do. I did it twice. I did it once in my time off in January, and then I actually did it again in the spring. I would go a little further with this. And it's like a home spa, because you also get a lot of, like, you get Ayurveda face packs and scrubs, you get the body scrubs, you get herbal cleansing formulas, We get Ayurveda recipes and dressings, and all with seasonal foods and spices and things to boost the Agni function. It's very nice. You get daily yoga practices and meditation practices. It's a really nice program. So starts on a Thursday, finishes on a Saturday, with a grand finale of a purgation. It's fantastic. But it includes a mini initial consultation. So I adapt it for your dosha and for your particular constitution, and also presenting condition, strength or symptoms. I will send information out. I'd love any of you to join me. You get the kit, you get the shopping list. It's great. It's a great time to give to yourself. I support you all the way through with a WhatsApp chat group, so I'm always there for your questions. And then we have 2 Zoom calls also where you can ask your questions as we go through the program. So you're really guided through it. You're at home, you are eating. You need to be not doing so much during these times, though. Yeah, it's definitely, particularly in the middle and towards the end of the cleanse, it's not a time to be out and about really socializing or working amongst a lot of people. Because when we first cleanse, the body's working hard. So we're initially a little bit more vulnerable. So we want to take care. But the result is fantastic in terms of your strength and your energy and your radiance. Finally, you can do a one-to-one program where you'll have an in-depth consultation, you'll have weekly treatments, you'll have a personalized Ayurveda yoga program to do maybe 15-20 minutes daily. Because what I'm finding is, even for myself, I think we all know it, we get put on a program, we have immense enthusiasm initially, and then it's really hard to sustain. So this is to help you sustain it like 3 months so you can really have a chance of getting the benefits. It will be seasonally adapted and also adapted for your dosha. And if you want to have a chat with me about any of these and ask me more questions, then just let me know in class or email or text me, and we can set like a 15-20 minute chat time up, and you can decide if any of it or one of them is for you. Okay. Talked a lot about the Radiant Mornings program. We're doing these daily live stream or face-to-face Ayurveda yoga classes. They really will help you stay strong through the season also. They're taking care of your Agni, your doshas. And then, I'm doing Ayurveda body treatments, which are with special herbal oils. It's much more than a massage. They really pacify the doshas. They're fantastic if you would like to book one, and we can have a look at your doshas, have a look what's going on, and then select maybe a sequence of them. Some would like a bolus bag and special oils. Other would like just hot herbalized oils or sesame oil. It's very nice. Pastes also to detox. Okay, and this is that same invite I just gave you. There's Jude being a wonderful photographic model for me. So yeah, book a call if you would like to, if you're interested in any of these programs, you want to find out more, just text me and we will have like a 15-20 minute chat, find out what's going on with you and what might help. And that is it from me for this series, but we'd like to spend a little more time if anyone has any questions. Anything? It's all clear? Yeah. Did the inquiry help? Did you get a few things you might tweak in your daily life? Yeah, Meg's nodding, Joanna's nodding. Great. All right, so I'm here for your ongoing Ayurveda questions and hopefully more learning and immersion with me. So I hope you've got a taste through these 3 webinars, which is really what I wanted to convey. I really wanted to inspire and place in your heart the seed of enthusiasm and longing to bring more of these wonderful wisdom traditions into your life. And you can also support your friends and family with them. Yeah, Elaine.
I was just going to ask, are you going to carry on with the Radiant Morning programme going forward?
Yes, I am. I'm doing it definitely live stream. I really want to start plugging in the next 2 weeks, Elaine, to try and get enough people to make it feasible to keep going.
Right.
And do it kind of as like a 3-month seasonal package. So you really get the experience of it. I mean, personally, I think as much as anything, because the girls who've been with me these last months, they get little tips, as you'll know by now, interwoven into the class, little bits of guidelines, but mainly it's the practices that are keeping us strong. And I think everyone would say they are keeping them strong. It's really working with your prana.
Well, certainly for me, it's been a real introduction for me, because I haven't known any of this. I can't even say the word Ayurveda. I didn't know anything about it. So for me, it's been a really lovely sort of gentle introduction, and also, getting to learn quite a lot. It's a lot of information to take on board, but I am learning such a lot, and it is really making sense.
That's
so,
fantastic.
It's just all very new to me, that's all.
Yeah, absolutely, Elaine. And just take on, don't try to force anything. The bits that you remember as you go through your days or as you're working in your kitchen, they're the right things to take on board. Okay. So you're not forcing anything. And then, with the Ayurveda yoga program, with the morning program, you're really doing a lot for yourself already there, and it will kind of open up a little more enthusiasm and energy to bring more bits of Ayurveda in. And yeah, we have to make it gradual. If we just if you do too much of a sudden transition in the seasons, remember, like there's this kind of revolt in the body rebels. So we kind of got this at the beginning as one of the pointers. A little bit with anything, it's like that, isn't it? If we force the body and mind too much. So you're doing absolutely right to just hold your curiosity and try little bits and see if they work for you, the bits that you remember.
Thank you.
And yeah, please, those of you that are on the program that have just joined for August, I'll send out some information, and hopefully some of you will be able to stay. And if it doesn't work because of your work program, then also we can work around that. We can find a way that it works. You've got that ongoing support as you're going out into your life. Thanks, Elaine. Anyone else? Anything before we say goodnight? I can stop the screen share, can't I now? There, see you all now. Okay. Sue, you wanted to ask something?
No, it's okay. I was just getting ready to say goodbye.
Okay. I'm sure you're all sleepy and ready to put your feet up. But please do join me for more. Ask your questions and bring Ayurveda into your life. Okay. Thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. The recordings are on YouTube. You can re-listen anytime. Okay. Have a lovely evening, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.